The English Premier League has finally come to an end. It was a season of excitement. Three Premiership titles in a row is something that many persons could speak about. There are teams that finish surprisingly in the top four. I want to say as well impressive to unimpressive coaching tactics, and records were broken. And welcome to Premier 7. I am your host, Ryan Nelson. That was just a cool and sizzling introduction. And as you can see here, I have something here for you all to see, but that is for later in the show. Something here as well. So, of course, it's all about Premier 7. It's all about taking the time out to speak about what the season was all about. And this will be in the form of the season finale, EPL season 2022 to 23, end game analysis, all about the top 7 teams. And before I go into these details, don't know say Premier 7. I have a banging introduction. So guess what? Make we see what I go on. I planned this video for a while, not by a very long stretch, but I had to add something extra because it is the end of season for the Premier League. And even though Premier 7 came into play this year, I have to put together something excited for the end of the season. And I mentioned earlier on before the introduction that this specific video is all about the season finale as it relates to the EPL season 2022-2023 end game analysis, top 7 teams. So, whichever teams ended from first to 7, I will be speaking about those teams. All right, so I just want to say a big thank you as well to all those persons who have joined this amazing talk, because Premier 7 is here to provide you with all of the news, information, and updates about the top 7 teams in the Premier League. And I know that the season has ended, so the transfer window is coming up. And I'm going to speak about the transfer window whenever the FA Cup final is over. So therefore, I can give you some transfer news about the teams in the Premier League, not the top 7 teams, because the season will be a new season. So I want to dive into details now by speaking about some key things. Firstly, on the list will be the Premiership table, right? And I'm going to utilize the One Football software. The One Football software is quite popular. It is very useful in regards to providing you with all of the necessary information about English Premier League teams, but by extension, it doesn't only stick to EPL news. So let's dive into some details. All right. So as it relates to the goal difference for these teams, Manchester City has a goal difference of 61, finishing the season on 89 points. Arsenal, not a bad season, but they finish in second place, 45 for their goal difference, 84 points. Manchester United, 15 for their goal difference, very small, 75 points. Newcastle United ended fourth, 35 for the goal difference, 71 points. Liverpool, 28 for the goal difference, 67 points. Brighton and Hove Albion, 19 for the goal difference, 62 points. And in 7th place, Aston Villa, with a goal difference of 5, 61 points. So basically, all of those teams cover from 1 to 7. And it looks quite wonderful for teams, I would say, like Arsenal, who have made their way to finish second in the Premier League. Many persons was expecting them to finish first, but I'm going to do a team assessment afterwards. Good for Manchester United, who finished third, Newcastle fourth, Liverpool was the only team I'm seeing here that was a bit disappointing, but not bad for Brighton and, you know, Aston Villa. So I'm going to run into something here by way of a team assessment. I'm going to speak about the the downfalls and accomplishment, and I'm going to use a football formation because I went ahead to create the formation for these teams. So the first team on the list, I'm going to go in order. I'm going to start off with Manchester City because they're the champions. What is there really to say about Manchester City? Did Manchester City have a bad start of the season? Well, not necessarily, but Manchester City did not get the best start. It wasn't their best start because Arsenal was paving the way and going forward. But I basically choose the key players here for Manchester City, and it is basically a 4-3-3 formation. So, in goal, Edison, the back line is always solid: Walker, Stones, Diaz, and Ake. The midfield three, I would say it is the best midfield three in the Premier League: Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, and the front three would be Grealish, Silva, and Haaland. If you realize there's a star beside Erling Haaland's name, the reason being is because I'm going to speak about some key players and them being outstanding. As you can see here, I still have something here to show to you all. So it is like a small surprise, nothing crazy, but just hear me out while I just speak about um, the teams first, and then I go to the screen and show what I'm speaking about. For Manchester City, the season wasn't bad. They For the downfall, it is nothing really crazy. They encountered a few injuries, like to a Phil Foden, even to a Kyle Walker. Ake was injured during the Champions League against Bayern Munich, but because of the depth that this particular squad have, then you know that the players who they brought in, for instance, like a Palmer, sometimes to play, a Kanji who can play at centre back and even in Kyle Walker's position at times, it shows how deep the squad is in terms of depth. So that shows that based on the fact that that is a downfall for them based on injury, I want to say that based on, for instance, now moving away from downfall to impression, I am impressed with Manchester City based on the fact that they have squad depth. They have players who can play in all sort of position, but for the right reasons. So I just want to say that the team has done very well in terms of the accomplishments. Three Premier League titles in a row for Man City, the FA Cup final to play against Manchester United, and the Champions League finals against Inter Milan. So I would say that it was a very successful season for them. It would be a big accomplishment if they do win the treble, but many other fans would not like to see that. So for Man City, it was very good for them, and I am impressed to speak about Manchester City. So let me move away from Man City and speak about the other team in second place. So Arsenal typically would use like a 4-3-3 formation. Ramsdale in goal. The back four is covered by White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Zinchenko. The midfield three is always the same with Partey, Odegaard, and Xhaka. The stars beside Saka because he's a key player for them. Martinelli is also a top player, and Gabriel Jesus. Now, for Arsenal, the downfall, they missed out on major trophies this season. The Premier League was the major thing that many persons said that they were going to clinch, but Arsenal missed out to Man City. I think it's a case of which some key players were injured. Jesus was out for a while, and the players did not have that winning mentality. Like, well, they have the winning mentality, but they don't have that oomph like Man City players to really and truly deliver. And the squad depth was an issue for them in that case because when Saliba was injured, Rob Holding and even Akivia, those two players aren't on the same level as Saliba. And that was a case of which, Arsenal drew 3 games in a row to West Ham, Liverpool, and Southampton, not in the same order, but those 3 teams are the teams on which they missed out on the Premier League by not winning it because they drew those games. And another disappointment for Arsenal was the Europa League. They should have won that competition or even finished somewhere in the quarterfinals or semifinals. They were knocked out by Sporting Lisbon. So, despite the fact that they had injuries, they were disappointing in regards to where they finished in some major competitions. Now, for the accomplishment, finishing second place isn't a bad idea for Arsenal. Not the first time that they're finishing second, but a season for transformation occurred, and we saw how Arsenal can really and truly play some good football. It brought back my memories back into the days of Henry and those key players like even Bergam when Arsene Wenger was ripping things up for Arsenal. Not winning all titles, but they were finishing in top positions like second place, first place, you name it, and even in Champions League they went to even finals. So it was an accomplishment for Arsenal because Arsenal has made their way to the Champions League, and I would say that is a big improvement for them in that sense. So moving away from Arsenal now, I'm going to speak about the third place team that is going to be Manchester United. Manchester United, the best season so far for them in a long while, but the downfall for Manchester United was a case of starting off the season quite bad, losing to Brighton. I think it was 2-1 and losing 4-0 to Brentford. It was a season of disaster, many persons would say. Judgment was placed on Lisandro Martinez for being too short. Um, Ronaldo with Piers Morgan as well, that interview. Casemiro wasn't his best at the start of the season, injuries and lack of signings. Squad depth was what Manchester United did not have as well, getting Wout Weghorst in the transfer winter. All of those things contributed to Manchester United not playing the football that Ten Hag wanted to play in his first season. But on a whole, Manchester United did fairly well. And as you can see here, based on the formation, these players should have been the key players to start every single game for Manchester United. It is normally like a 4-2-3-1 for Manchester United. De Gea in goal, the back line would be Dalot, Varane, Martinez, and Shaw. Casemiro and Ericsson would be the players who hold the midfield, but Ericsson got that license to go forward. Rashford, Fernandez, and Anthony, and Martial, who is the injury-prone person. The formation would be that these players are the key players, and as I've said before, the downfall would be like the injuries and so forth. Now, for the accomplishment, finishing third is very good. Many persons thought that United would have finished like a fifth. Winning the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle was a big accomplishment as well for the team in red. Ten Hag has made some big talk that he believes that these players can deliver against Man City because they have done so before. I don't have Lindelof on this, but Lindelof was an outstanding player for Manchester United this season. Marcus Rashford hitting 30 goals for the season. I think Robin van Persie was the latest player to do so. So, these things shows that Manchester United is going somewhere, and hopefully it can continue for the club and for the fans. And of course, the team is not going downhill; they are going upwards. And of course, I believe that they have what it takes to deliver. If the ownership do change, I think the Glazers will still remain, but we never know what will happen. Let's just see what will take place for the team in Reds, for which they call themselves the Red Devils. Of course, let me just give you the details on the team that is very impressive this season as well. I wasn't expecting them to finished in the top four, but yes, they have. That goes to Newcastle, right? Newcastle United 4-3-3 formation. Eddie Howe, is a coach. The backline is very solid. That is the reason why their goal difference is so good. Um, Pope in goal. The back four is normally Trippier, Botman, Fabian Shear, Burns. Midfield Bruno Guimaraes is a very not elite, but getting on a level to be world class as a CDM. Very good alongside Joe Linton and Willock. Isaac Almiron on the wing behind the striker, Callum Wilson. Fantastic club. Now for the downfall, I would say injuries is a case of disappointment for them as it relates to like Alan St. Maximin. I don't want to say he's injury prone, but maybe he's on that level or is on the radar of injury prone. Also, Almiron was also injured within the season. That was a disappointment. And another disappointment was the fact that Bruno Guimaraes received red cards as well. And yeah, it affected their fluency in terms of the season. But losing out to Manchester United as well in the Carabao Cup final was a big blow for them. But that did not stop their season from progressing. Now, I want to speak about the accomplishment. Fourth place isn't a bad thing. They have a fantastic ownership in place for them. The owners spend wisely, not like other clubs who would spend way out of order, like I would say a PSG, but they spend wisely. That is Newcastle. Having a proper structure in place from top to bottom so the fans can benefit. And finishing fourth isn't a bad thing for a new Newcastle United. Back in the days when they have players like Andy Cole or even Alan Shearer, Newcastle was winning titles, playing in the Champions League. And a big thing for them, it has been more than 15 years since they haven't been in the Champions League. So for them to be in the Champions League this time around, it is absolutely amazing. So that is a big accomplishment for Newcastle United. So apart from the four teams mentioned, it shows progress for those teams, and Premier 7 is showing progress as well. 190 subscribers. So you are the persons who are making the channel something, even though I'm doing my job here. But I want to say thank you to all those supporting fans. So continue to watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Premier 7. And of course, turn on the notification bell for videos. Remember, the transfer window is coming up, and I've said before I'm going to be right here speaking about the transfer window after the FA Cup finals. So I'm going to be available to give you some details because the transfer window is full of flame, it is full of steam. So the next team on my list would be Liverpool. Get rid of Manchester United out of my way. Not because you guys are in third place, it doesn't mean that you should want to take over my show. It is a season that they should forget. So typically, we all know that the coach doesn't change. Jurgen Klopp 4-3-3 formation. Alisson in goal, the back four, Trent Konate. It should have been Matip, but Konate is playing more games based on my knowledge. Van Dijk, Robertson, the midfield three, Fabinho, Henderson, Curtis Jones, very good player, and Gakpo, Salah, and Darwin Nunes. The big downfall for Liverpool is all about an aging squad. Not the best in terms of how they're playing. It is just not Liverpool's style, a team that is known for pressing high up the pitch. These players have the potential to do so, but with injuries taking place to even a Thiago Alcantara. I think he's made of glass. He needs to go really and truly. That is a downfall for them. Matip is not in the game as well at times, and Konate comes in is a bit reckless. That is another downfall for them. Nunes first season not the best for the Uruguayan striker. Salah took a while to kick things off. Gakpo, never the Gakpo that we thought he would have been when he was at PSV, but things fall into place afterwards. But on a whole, key players was injured, and that prevented Liverpool from finishing in the top four. Because when the season began for Liverpool, guess what? They were way down there. They were way down there. So to finish fifth, it is an accomplishment for them. It is a big achievement. I know it is not Liverpool's style to finish in Europa League this time around. It will be in the Champions League, but for them to have such a bad season, it is an accomplishment for them to finish in the top five, to even get some new players in, attract some players who want to go to a different club and rebuild. Because if they weren't in the Champions League, then guess what? It would be even less for them to spend money and attract players. So Liverpool, good try. Next season should be a better season for you as it relates to even the transfer window. So ensure that the owners of FSG will be pumping some money into the club to get some players. Because Navigator is gone from in the last season. James Milner is also gone. So they need some replacements for these players to be a good club once more. Right? So let's see what Brighton has to say here. Brighton is coached by the Zerbi. So this formation that you're seeing, it is a 4-2-3-1. Right? So basically, in goal Steele, Sanchez was injured, still out. Back four, Veltman, Colwell, Dunk, the captain Estopian, Pascal Groves, Moise Caicedo is on the transfer list alongside McAllister, Mitoma, March. The other two players, I don't think those two will be leaving Brighton though, but McAllister and Caicedo is on the list, and Welbeck is up there. The downfall for Brighton will be a case of losing their coach, I would say. The coach was doing a good job for me so far. I don't even remember his name really and truly because he was sacked by Chelsea, and Chelsea finished 12 in the Premier League, I think. Graham Potter was the coach, of course. The disappointment was that the players had to adjust to a new coach. They lose a key player like Trossard as well, who went to Arsenal. But really and truly, there's not much disappointment for Brighton. It is more so of an accomplishment for them to be in Europe, finishing sixth in the Premier League, getting players who can play in a system for the Zerbi, and even attracting big clubs to purchase their players like Caicedo and McAllister. It wasn't a bad season for Mitoma as well and Welbeck. These players have what it takes to even do better. They lose even out to Manchester United in the FA Cup semi-finals. Solly March was the person who missed the penalty, and no one would have thought that Brighton would have been in the FA Cup semi-final. On the whole, it was a successful season for Brighton, and I hope that it will continue for them to get some new players in and, kick things off next season. Now, the final team on the list before I go into the next portion of the video, Aston Villa is also in Europe's competition. Downfall for Aston Villa really and truly was like a few injuries, like to Ali and Bailey, not having a deep squad depth, but even losing McGinn in the season as well due to injury, he has to be replaced by other players. I don't think they even got any signings done really and truly, and if they did, it wouldn't have been a major signing to kick things off. Even Heaney was injured as well, and Ashton had to replace him. But that is just the Premier League. Accomplishment for them was a case of getting rid of Steven Gerrard and getting in Unai Emery. Unai Emery revolutionized Aston Villa. He was even placed in that bunch of coaches to be coach of the Premier League season or coach of the year. So he brought them from way down there and way up here to finish top seven. That was absolutely a fantastic achievement for Unai Emery and his men. I'm going to speak about the players with the stars as well. As you can see, Ollie Watkins was there. So basically, the lineup for them that I choose based on the players, I would go for like a Martinez because these players are outstanding. Matty Cash, Concept, Mings, Digne, back four that is, Louise, Kamara, McGinn in the midfield three, and of course Ramsey, who's playing very well for them at a very young age. Leon Bailey and Watkins, absolutely amazing for Aston Villa. So that shows that progress has been done by the club. It really and truly shows that whenever you have a good coach in place, then something right can be done. And Aston Villa has made progress. Brighton has made progress. All of the teams in the top seven has made progress. I would say Man City is consistent in terms of just being brilliant. So the next portion of the video now is all about the outstanding team players. Disappointment, impression, and improvement. So it's time to reveal what is behind the scene. All right. I don't want to remove this as yet. And this will be amazing. Let me see. Password is wrong. Just a moment. Don't want to reveal the beauty so far. Right. Here we go. Voila. That is the players. As you can see here, Erling Haaland, Saka, Rashford, Callum Wilson, Salah, Moise Caicedo, and Ollie Watkins. So I was just saving this for this amazing portion of the video, and as I've said before, it will be based on the outstanding team players, disappointment, impression, and improvement. And I'm going to go to the details right now by way of who scored. All right, so first on the list would be Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland is basically the boss for his team, Manchester City. Erling Haaland has scored 36 goals in the Premier League this season, 33 appearances, 8 assists, ratings of 7.54. That speaks volume of Erling Haaland, his first season. Now, the disappointment for Erling Haaland was trying to think about even one. Nothing really about Erling Haaland was disappointing. He missed a few goals. It He fell off track a bit because he was on fire, so he dipped a bit in terms of form and in terms of scoring goals. But when players are just too good, there's nothing really to judge them about. So there's nothing really disappointing about Erling Haaland. But the impression was his first season, 36 goals, breaking the Premier League's record, winning the Premier League, qualifying for the Champions League once more, helping Manchester City to win 3 Premier League titles in a row. Um, what else? Champions League final, I mentioned that, I think. FA Cup final, scoring against big teams, killing Manchester United off, ripping all teams apart. Even if I don't remember some of the team's name, it doesn't matter which team you are. Erling Haaland was the man who made the Premier League his own. So for improvements, I think he needs to just work on the fact that he should need to track back more. And what more? Nothing really more to say about Erling Haaland. It's just amazing. It was a very delightful season for him. So there's no major judgment on Erling Haaland this season. I just want to say congrats to him upon doing what Erling Haaland does best. All right, so next on the list, I would say Bukayo Saka. I spoke about him on several occasions on my channel because he's just too impressive. For Bukayo Saka, 37 games he played, 14 goals, 11 assists, ratings of 7.40 in the Premier League. Absolutely amazing. The downfall or the disappointment for Saka from a personal standpoint would be a case of not winning any trophies. That is disappointing. Disappointing results for him. If I should speak about his performance, nothing really is there to say. So disappointment doesn't go for every player really and truly. But for impression, I was impressed with him based on the fact that he knows how to deliver for the fans. He knows how to deliver for the team and for his coach. 11 assists, 14 goals. At the age of 21, absolutely amazing. Renewing his contract as well until a few more years. He will not be leaving his club. He's just impressive. The coach love him, the fans love him, and he can be the revelation who can even help Arsenal win the Premier League. For improvements, defensive wise, he can improve. Leadership wise, he can improve. Nothing really crazy to discuss about him in terms of improvement. So it's more so impression over everything for Bukayo Saka. All right. So next on the list will be the man who won the Player of the Season for Manchester United. It goes to Marcus Rashford. I also spoke about Rashford on my channel before. For Marcus Rashford, 17 goals, 5 assists, ratings of 7.08. The disappointment, or the disappointment for Rashford is that I would say he needs to defend more. That is just the problem I have with him. Learn how to make better decisions because sometimes Anthony doesn't cross the ball. He doesn't cross the ball as well, so it's problematic for the striker. So if Rashford can improve in terms of that form of disappointment, it would be better for his career. Also, I would say that the disappointment for him on a team's perspective is a case of not winning the Europa League. That would have been a disappointment for him. For impression, 30 goals within the season. A bad season before, he was on the radar to be sold to like a PSG. He revolutionized his career after the World Cup, playing well for England, playing well for Manchester United, renewed his contract. Ten Hag loves Rashford. And for improvement, as I've said before, he just needs to work on his defensive attributes and, of course, learn how to pass the ball at times. Poor in terms of decision making, but on a whole, Marcus Rashford deserves to be that key player for Manchester United. Fourth place would be Callum Wilson. 21 appearances, 18 goals. Very, very good. 5 assists, rating 6.92. He's not in the 7 bracket, but he is absolutely amazing. So For Callum Wilson, the disappointment is that he wasn't given that much of a chance to start as the main striker because Isak was the person who was leading the line. Missed a few games, maybe because of injuries, maybe because of lack of form. But apart from the disappointment again, he was more so on the impressive side. The first time I'm seeing him scoring so many goals in the Premier League, he placed himself in the top six for being a top striker. So that is a big accomplishment for him. A Champions League spot as well, playing in a final as well. For him, it is just a remarkable season for him at the age of 31. Age doesn't really matter, but it shows me that once you put in the work, you can do something remarkable. And he owned the front line. He led the line quite well. Eddie Howe was impressed. So I think that he is the man for them. Maybe they purchase a new striker, but you never know. But if he stay at the club and they purchase a new striker, what a competition that would be. For improvement, continue to be Callum Wilson, continue to impress the Newcastle fans, and continue to stick to your task, and you will be a legend if you continue on that path. So, nothing really crazy to say about Callum Wilson. All right, so moving away from Newcastle United to Liverpool, disappointing season, a season to forget, even though they finished a bit stronger. I want to speak about Mohamed Salah. It is just not the best season for him on a disappointing level. Salah started off slow, not scoring enough goals as we thought he would have scored. Lethargic it seems in terms of how he was playing, but he find form. Salah in the Premier League, 19 goals, 12 assists, one goal ahead of Callum Wilson. Liverpool Player of the Year I would give him if that was the case as well. Ratings in the 7 bracket as well in the Premier League. 7.16 for Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah, impression would be a case of the fact that he bounced back and found form, helping Liverpool to even finishing in the top 5 because I don't think he's a player who likes to make much of assists. He would more so like to score goals. And even though it was disappointing in regards to missing some crucial penalties, even that one against, I think, Arsenal, and even Bournemouth, I think, it showed that Salah is a human being after all. But of course, for Mohamed Salah, let me remain on the positive side. 19 goals in the season. He had better seasons before, but he's in double figures once more. So improvements. I don't think he would be the person that needs to be improving. Really, it is just the squad needs to improve for Liverpool. But Salah, on a personal perspective, just continue to be Salah, continue to make assists because that wasn't something that he really likes to do or really do based on the eyes. Of course, Salah does need to improve his overall game, defend more, and he will be. He's already a legend at Liverpool, so nothing really much to say about Salah in that case. So, congrats to Liverpool on a general basis to finish in the top 5. Europa League is there for you to win, possibly. Right. So for a Moise Caicedo, he's a natural CDM player. Can play in the midfield as a box-to-box player as well. And for Moise Caicedo, he plays even at the right back. Robust player. 34 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist. The yellow card is a thing I don't like to see him receiving. I think he's a bit reckless, but rating 6.92. The disappointment for him would be a case of not being able to avoid a few yellow cards. But he's very good in terms of how he understands the game. He's very quick, he's very good. But based on the World Cup which I watched, and in the Premier League, some of the games, he needs to calm down a bit and keep his head on his body to avoid cards. That is the only disappointment. Impression, 21 years of age. He is an 80 million pound player for some clubs. Arsenal was in for him. That was somewhat the price tag for him. It shows that he attract the eyes of many big clubs. Manchester United. He can play different positions. That is the thing. A season of success for him is going to play in one of those big competitions because Brighton qualify for the Europa League, but big teams are looking out for him because he's impressive. Improvement, as I've said before, for the disappointment, 10 yellow cards. He needs to avoid getting so many yellow cards. But apart from that, he's a very, very good player. And the last person on the list will be Ollie Watkins. He missed that crucial penalty against Liverpool, but that is how life goes. Best season for him as a 27-year-old, 36 appearances, 15 goals, a few goals behind Wilson, and Salah, 6 assists, a few yellow cards, 6.96 for the ratings in the Premier League. In a team that is not the best team, not rated as a big club. Aston Villa is not rated as a big club, but it can be a club that can cause problems. Their players would go out to different clubs if you're impressed. For instance, Ashley, who went to Manchester United, but back to his club, having impressed a few. For Ollie Watkins, the disappointment was just missing some key goals. I think he needs to work on his finishing because he missed some easy chances. But you know, overall, the reason why I pick these players is because they're the top players. So it's more impression than depression. So impressive season for him because he helped his team to score big teams. Newcastle, where he scored, I think he scored a brace against them. Not a brace, he scored against them. I know that he's a good player because I remember a season where Liverpool lost to them 7-2. He was on the score sheet. So he knows how to turn up against big teams. He scored against Manchester United as well. Even in other competition, he knows how to deliver. And for improvement, just work on your finishing and you will be more recognized. I think he looks like an Arsenal player, but I don't think Arsenal wants to purchase Oli Watkins. Maybe Arsenal goes for a Osimhen, but we never know what will take place. But I mean, I am impressed with all of these players being mentioned. So, as I've said before, the subscription isn't bad. I have 190 subscribers. So, guys, thank you all for supporting my channel. And as I've said before, the transfer window is right around the corner. And I have to provide those details, right? I'm going to provide all of those key details as best as I can because it will be a lot. News will be shared by even Fabrizio Romano and other journalists, so I'll be on board to cover those information as best as I can. I'm going to wrap things up now. This will be like the season summary and expectations for next season. But before I even do that, I have my own trophy. I have my own trophy. This trophy was utilized in a video for which I said that Manchester City was going to clinch the Premier League, and I think they said to me that keep this trophy at your home. Our trophy is bigger than that, but it shows that we're all champions. All right, so the summary: Man City, congrats in winning the Premier League title 3 in a row. You have a chance to win the FA Cup against Manchester United, and you have a chance to win the Champions League for the first time. That is the summary for Man City. For Arsenal, missing out on major trophy, Europa League could have been better for you guys. You could finish even in the semi-finals. You could have won the Premier League. Those things are disappointment. Manchester United, summary for them, Carabao Cup champions, absolutely amazing. Ten Hag first season. He inherit the worst team, many persons would say, with big names but not big names to perform. If you understand what I'm saying here. It was a disappointing season for Manchester United before Ten Hag came, and when he inherited such team, he showed that he could revolutionize the club. Remember, it was a very, very poor transfer window. Imagine having a player like Wout Weghorst being your striker. Think about it. Wout Weghorst being your striker. I play skimmage football. I'm not a big football, but I can play better than Wout Weghorst. I can play better than Wout Weghorst, and I'm not going to take that back. It was very shocking. Players were injured as well, like Alessandro Martinez, Casemiro receiving like red cards unnecessarily though. Varane missing out again due to injury, and to finish in the top four, third place with a bad goal difference though. It shows how well Ten Hag did for the club. Another team, Newcastle United. In summary, Newcastle United, a fairly good job for Newcastle United. I would say, in a nutshell, finishing in the Carabao Cup final, losing out to United there. It was impressive. Champions League once more in their palm to compete in. Newcastle really and truly give me a feeling as if when Leicester won the Premier League. It is just that feeling that they gave me to say that it is a big thing to see a club that wasn't expected to be in the top four being in such position. Yes, they have rich owners, but guess what? They have been doing an excellent job. And TK Brown says, facts here. I'm not sure what he is really relating to, because I just see the message flowing in. And Howard Strachan, a big shout out to Howard Strachan. He said that he is no good. I think he's related to Vote Big Horse. If you're speaking to Vote Big Horse directly, he's absolutely garbage. And Howard Strachan is a person that I know. He's a family member of mine. A big shout out to him. He doesn't rate Harry Maguire, and Harry Maguire is no good as well. So a big shout out to Howard Strachan and TK Brown for supporting Premier 7 in terms of the presentation being done here. And I was speaking about Newcastle United in regards to having a very prosperous season. Liverpool, in a nutshell, now, for summary, disappointment. Not being able to clinch top four, but of course, injuries. Not the best transfer window for them as well, having injuries to key players like a Thiago. Jude Bellingham was on the radar for them. They did not got a Jude Bellingham, but for me, Liverpool was a team that was overused in terms of players, really and truly. Season on top of season, it was really and truly depressing for those players who did their best. And I want to speak about Klopp. He needs to get into the face of the owners and say, hey, I need to replace some of these key players. Because remember, Milner is gone now. Firmino is gone. He's a legend of Liverpool. Naby Keita, and players who are there not getting any play like Fabio Carvalho. Nate, not playing well. So a replacement needs to be done for Liverpool. Hopefully they can win the Europa League and find their way back into the Champions League. And for the other two teams, Brighton, a very prosperous season, finishing in the semi-finals against Manchester United, for which they went out to in the FA Cup, finishing in the top six, Europa League for the first time based on my knowledge. Key players like a Moise Caicedo, that is his signature pose, alongside even a McAllister. Key players. Whenever big players like those are looked at by other clubs, it shows that your club is performing. And sometimes I believe that these clubs need to keep their players. Needs to keep their players so that they can even have a chance to win a trophy. And for Aston Villa to wrap things up for them, Aston Villa really and truly is impressive. Leon Bailey, big up yourself. Yeah, big up yourself, because you're going to play in the Conference League with Aston Villa. And on a whole, a big shout out to the coaches as well for all of the teams. So, what is my expectation? What is my expectation? I don't have any expectation really and truly now. The focus will be the Champions League, the FA Cup. I want to get those two things out of my head first before I can even jump into the transfer window, because the transfer window is the expectation really and truly. What to expect in the transfer window, because I need to see not only news circulating, but seeing players of class going to the club, dropping into those areas for which needs to be sorted out. And once that is being done, then you can say you will see some better football being played. On a whole, this was really and truly the the season finale, right? The EPL season finale of this Premier League season. It was absolutely amazing, ups and downs, but I did a fair analysis of the teams. As you can see here, I incorporate something different here for the fans who are supporting the channel. I have my trophy here that Man City said that I should keep because their trophy is bigger than mine. And this now, Neymar to Manchester United. I'll leave that for the transfer. But hopefully he will stay at PSG. Yeah, it is now the end of the video. A lot of work has been done, but I'm just thanking you all for subscribing and sharing the channel videos and so forth. It is my time to go. I'm getting a bit hungry. So support the channel. I'll speak to you guys in a bit.